And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Earlier this year, the BC government announced more families in British Columbia will save thousands of dollars every year as more than 700 childcare spaces move to $10 a day Childcare BC program. The newly approved $10 a day spaces were offered at 25 childcare centers throughout BC, including Houston, Squamish, Surrey, and Vancouver. On today's Open Connection, Minister Cullen gives us an update on childcare in the North.
Right across the province, and particularly here in the Northwest, we've been putting literally millions of dollars into childcare in the last little while, last few years, and at all points along the way, helping build childcare spaces where there are none, putting them into schools, which I think is a really good development, as well as boosting training, so getting more people into childcare, and putting a $6 subsidy on people's wages, like boosting the wages that people earn, because, you know, if you want to get people to do the work in this competitive market, the good reason for doing all this is that when we create childcare spaces, that has a knock-on effect with the economy. Not only does it help that family and the choices that they have, especially when they're affordable and safe childcare, it also allows people to get back to work as nurses, and doctors, and teachers, and construction workers. And so we know that when we invest those millions of dollars, which we have right across the North, the benefit to those families, to our economy is 7 times greater than every dollar that we put in. So feeling good about it. Lots more to do. The waiting lists are still too long, but BC, as you know, has been adding a lot of people to our province, and things like childcare, nursing, all of those things needed a significant boost after a lot of years of not getting much support at all.
You know, and of course, here in the North, we've always scrambling for getting some kind of resources that seem to magically appear in the South, because that's where they rolled out the program, because that's the biggest part of the population. Do you see more and more spaces for childcare opening up here in the North? I'm
attending childcare announcements almost every week. New spaces, newly created venues, or refurbishing old ones. So I think there's more to come. And again, you can build a space, but if you don't have people working there, it doesn't do anyone any good. So we actually, one of the changes we made is that people, while still in high school, can begin to get their childcare training, get their first year done, get out of high school, finish their second year, and then get right into work and practicums immediately. And so we're seeing a big uptick of young people saying, this is something that I want to do. It's a career I can pursue, and I can earn okay money doing it. And within a year of coming out of high school, there they are at work, getting a paycheck and helping our communities out, which I think is fantastic.
And I guess one of the things that you see as you drive up here in the North, and some people may like it, some people may not, is you see the orange cones that are out, and because, the infrastructure here, I mean, there's a lot of traffic that's going back and forth, and it's our only link to the South. What investments has the NDP been doing regarding our highways?
I'm just looking at 3 that come to mind. There's outside of Smithers, outside of Terrace, going up Highway 37, where I just was going up to Stewart and Dees Lake. We're seeing this year alone $53 million invested in our highways, hoping for more actually. Because we have so much highway, and particularly with the industrial traffic that we get, our roads break down faster. And bringing that money into the Northwest, making sure our roads are safe and smooth and not filled with potholes, that's a really important thing for us. We've also been contributing a lot to local government over the last few years to help them with that process as well, because it's very expensive. I mean, every kilometer of road is shockingly expensive to build and maintain in a good way. But we also know that if we have a really terrible highway system, it costs us all. Our trucks and cars break down way more. It's more expensive to deliver goods. It's just less safe. So really happy with the building so far of our highway system up. But I hope for even more good news in the next couple of weeks of some pretty significant announcements. So I know sometimes the actual construction itself can be frustrating, and I don't like sitting in traffic either. but and you see the improvements, and you know how much it helps so that your car and truck doesn't fall apart because the roads are no good.
And you mentioned you were up at Dease Lake, Stuart. What were you doing wandering around up there?
Well, Stuart is really going concern right now. They've got a good new mine that's set up and a lot of people working at it. They've also been, after 50 or 60 years, starting to invest in some of the community projects, a beautiful new library that we helped them with. Lots of good things happening. I went up to visit the Talcan up in Dease Lake. Incredibly busy nation, as you know, particularly on the mining front, but not just mining, all sorts of things. It's good. There's good relations. And again, lots of interest in how do we improve the infrastructure of the Northwest? How do we better share in the wealth that gets created in British Columbia? Making sure, the Northwest is just an economic engine for our province. My obsession as a local representative is how do I get as much of the money back to where it's needed. In our communities, it's definitely needed.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Having a conversation over a cup of coffee is often seen as a way to connect with others, build relationships, and engage in meaningful discussions. It can provide a neutral and cozy environment where people can open up, express themselves, and communicate more freely. Let us rejoin the conversation as Minister Cullen reflects on some of the coffee conversations he has had across the Northwest.
I'd say broadly, yes. It depends on who you talk to. We are small and opinionated towns strung together along these highways. And I actually enjoy, it might sound strange, but hearing people are critical of some of the things that are doing or not doing them fast enough. But I think that the general feedback I heard about Premier Eby in terms of his management style, keeping the province on track. Our economy is the best of any major province. We put more money into healthcare, and we've done a bunch of things to help people with cost of living, getting rid of medical services payments, helping people with childcare, building a lot of new homes. These are things that help because things are so incredibly expensive. And I think there's a lot of greed, frankly, in the food market and with gas prices, where folks are just kind of cleaning us out. And so we've been trying keeping ICBC rates low and then freezing them for a couple of years. Those are real pocketbook issues, and people want more of that. They want to make sure that those things don't change. And other parties are saying that they want to get rid of those changes. I don't know why, but that's okay. It's we figure the average family of four in the Northwest, if they've got one kid in childcare, saves a little north of $17,000 a year because of changes we've made. $17,000 is meaningful. That can make or break all sorts of decisions a family has to make.
Wait, that and getting the rebates from ICBC, I'm not used to seeing that, but I guess they've been doing this for a while now.
A couple of years now, we've been able to, we cleaned up ICBC. It was a total mess. When this government came in, the previous governments had kind of used it as like an ATM, overcharging people for their car insurance and then pulling all those billions of dollars into general revenue for tax cuts for rich people or whatever they wanted. And we said that's wrong. It's an insurance company. It should, if it's making money, it should return that money back to the ratepayers. That's us who buy insurance. And similar with hydro, we've been able to help offset people's hydro costs, also help people get into heat pumps if that's something they're interested in. We have a special benefit for people in the Northwest. And I have a bunch of neighbors that have been getting into heat pumps the last few years. And despite popular myth, they love them. Their energy costs are way lower and the government helped pay for it, which is not bad.
Now, of course, I kind of brought up a thought, and that's regarding an organization I heard called the Resource Benefits Allowance. Could you tell me a little bit about them and what they're doing for BC?
A coalition, essentially, of all of our local governments across the north, right from Haida Gwaii over to Vanderhoof, 24 local governments, and who for almost a decade now have been arguing that BC should share the revenues because, again, so much of the wealth that's created in this province happens natural resource sector, and particularly here in the north and northwest. So we've been negotiating, I've been advocating, and just this last year, we were able to come to an agreement between the province and all of our northern municipalities to share $250 million in revenue directly to local government to help pay for improvements, help keep our taxes stable. And this is an acknowledgement by BC that our communities are not glorified camps. There are places where people want to live. We need those amenities. We need our taxes not to be out of control. And I'm really proud that we were able to do this, and really proud of the leadership. We were the only party to stand up for this. People said it'll never happen. The province will never share revenue this way. But if you look back in our history, the Northeast has a revenue sharing agreement that was set up by an NDP government, as well as in the Columbia Basin. When they put a lot of those dams in, they set up the Columbia Basin Trust, and that was under an NDP government. So the idea of sharing between ourselves and local government is not unusual to us, and I'm really happy. And I know there'll be lots of projects that are going to get announced because of this sharing agreement, and really kudos to the municipalities. They very deliberate with this, and we overcame a lot of barriers to get it done.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Having a conversation over a cup of coffee is often seen as a way to connect with others, build relationships, and engage in meaningful discussions. It can provide a neutral and cozy environment where people can open up, express themselves, and communicate more freely. Let us rejoin the conversation as Minister Cullen reflects on some of the coffee conversations he has had across the Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, the general trend in Canada for the last 30 or 40 years is that the federal government pushes costs down to the province, provinces push those costs down to local government. But in my mind, it's all the same taxpayer. So how we treat each tax dollar, we got to be really careful with it. We gave local government, I think just last year, $1 billion right across the province. We've particularly given northern communities through a number of different funds, well over, I'd say $400 million in the last few years. And again, what does it do? Well, it helps keeps our pools open, our libraries going, keeps the roads safe, all of those things that our local governments do and deliver for us. And we see it as a partnership, and we want to be respectful of that partnership. How is it that municipalities can deliver these things? We have a lot of challenges, the toxic drug crisis, street safety, those kinds of things. We've helped municipalities with policing costs because those are very high and they're usually a big chunk of the budget. And there's more that we can do, but we got to do it together. I think I've seen in the past where there's been animosity or not a lot of respect, I guess, between the province and local governments. And when this government came in, we just didn't see it as an antagonistic relationship. Is everything perfect? No, of course, we got more to do, but in general, I think we've reset the relationship in a good way.
July is a special month for you, as far as I understand.
I was in Hazelton for Canada Day, and I couldn't believe it. We were serving up pancakes and sausages. I mean, I was just serving, so I was taking all the credit for having cooked breakfast, but they put 550 breakfasts out in Little New Hazelton, and then in Smithers. We were able to announce just recently a little shy of $10 million for a connecting bike trail and user trail for other things as well, from Smithers all the way to Telkwa. And it's kind of the first time really that BC it's a separated lane. It's really well used already. We've got a bit of it built. And we were able to celebrate that on Canada Day and how the community really came together to support this. 1,200 members in this group. And yeah, the Cycle 16 has been a really important project in saying that we can get back and forth, not just for recreation, but for work. And I think I've already seen more and more proposals coming from communities that want to be connected that way as well. And it's my birthday this month. So, I get to celebrate that by having a fundraiser in my backyard. That's how it is in politics sometimes. It's a very strange life, Robert, I'm telling you.
And it's one of those things where basically all the barriers are removed. It's like, I'm in my backyard, I'm wearing my swim trunks. If you want a burger or sausage.
Don't know about swim trunks, but I do. We hold a lot of open coffee houses when I'm going to a community, like I did in Stewart recently, or in Hazelton, Telkwa, Smithers, where I'll just say, social media, get up on Facebook, put a newsletter out and say, 10 to 12, I'm going to be here. Anyone come by, bring whatever issues you want. We're going to support you, try to find some solutions, or just want to talk. And it's out of those conversations that you get a lot, because you can really feel what's going on, as well as going door to door, just seeing people out and about. And sometimes at music festivals and other places, it's sometimes people are shy about it. They don't, oh, I don't want to interrupt you while you're at this concert. And for me, it's never a problem. It's I like talking to people, and this job is kind of it's a 24/7 kind of thing, and I know that, and I've done it for a while. So I appreciate when people want to engage with you and work on stuff together.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Of the 70 beds in total at the Bulkley Lodge in Smithers, 53 are long-term, 3 are short-term, and 14 are for the regional psychogeriatric population. The long-term residential care facility in Smithers always operates at 100% capacity. In this final segment of Open Connection, Minister Cullen shares what the NDP government is doing to help its seniors.
One of the things we found in COVID is that the standards in our long-term care facilities, particularly in the South, but in other places as well, had been just allowed to degrade over time. And so we did a couple of things. One is we boosted the number of long-term care workers that are out there that can either provide home support or work in a facility. We've also been funding, and if you look around the province, the list is long of new long-term care facilities that we've set up. I'm hoping that we get 2 more. I would really like to see one built in Smithers, also in Hazelton, and the community has been really coming together on that, because taking care of our elders that's to me not a left-wing or right-wing thing. That should just be us collectively, and I think we should judge ourselves on how we take care of our most vulnerable. We also know that if most people want to stay in home, in place, and so we've been making changes to allow people to do that and make sure that they get support. But you're right, our population is not only growing in BC quite dramatically, it is also aging. And that means we got to make sure our healthcare system is good, our hospitals are good. Beautiful new hospital opening up in Terrace, just outstanding. I think that's probably the biggest investments in Terrace's history, I'd say, by a long shot. I'm feeling good about that and want to see some more of those happen, because our healthcare system, again, we hired 6,500 new nurses in the last 18 months. We watched the last government actually cut nursing positions at a time when the population was aging. And that's too bad, because when you underfund those things, you create a different kind of deficit. And it's very expensive to dig out and get people the healthcare they need. They're not waiting too long for service.
And is that kind of leading into these new regulations regarding international credentials?
Yeah, we've been speeding that up, basically. Like, BC was known, and it was taking far too long when foreign trained doctors, nurses, and other professionals were coming into BC. They could qualify as immigrants. They had all their training, but then they would hit this roadblock where it would take 5, 6, 7 years to get certified, even though they had virtually everything in place. And so we've very dramatically changed that system to be more transparent and faster. You have a qualified nurse, you have a qualified doctor. Let's get them certified. Let's communicate fairly and openly with them. And we're already seeing results. The wait times have gone from 7 years to less than 2.5 years in most cases, from start to finish, from first application. And I think we could even improve more. We want good and qualified people, of course. But if they are, then let's get them into the system and get them working, because we need them. Again, every 35 days we add 10,000 people to this population. They don't all come with nurses and doctors. We need to be able to attract those folks, particularly to healthcare.
And kind of brought up an interesting thought. Just recently here in Skeena, there was 2, I guess you could say, landmark events when it comes to the First Nations community, the provincial government, and that was an initialing of, I guess, a part of that treaty process. Did you get a chance to talk to Minister Rankin about that, or did you attend yourself?
No, I just talked to Minister Rankin just yesterday, and I also talked with leadership from the First Nations communities, Kitsillas and Gitsim Kalam, who after almost 30 years of negotiating, we're able to come to this point in the treaty process, get some certainty and agreement. I think it's very positive. Every nation chooses their own path. You saw the Haida title recognition on the North Coast, really important. Haida took a different route to get there, and to bring some predictability and certainty to the question about the land, which for more than 150 years, successive governments have just kicked it down the road. It's not easy. It takes a serious amount of work, but we can bring people together and show that, private property interests can be protected, businesses can have an understanding of what's happening on the land base, and that what we have to do, which is reconcile how it is we are with First Nations people in this province, can finally happen. So Kitsilus chose that path. Other communities, other nations are choosing different ones, but we believe in the right of self-determination and for people to choose their way, to come to an agreement that is durable and is really going to work for everybody.
Is there anything I might have missed that you'd like to add?
As Minister of Water and Land, I'm always worried about water, and I hope we get some more rain, but it's been okay. It's been a cool spring, which is good. We don't have a lot of snowpack, and so of course we're all worried about fire. But we know we've invested a lot in our fire service, so we're doing everything we can from the local level right through to the province to make sure we're keeping our community safe. But next few weeks are going to be pretty exciting. There's a few more things that I think are coming. That'll make for some very positive news for folks, and just to be able to enjoy the Northwest. We live in paradise. It's such an incredible gift to be here, and we just got to keep honoring that.
Even though Jack Layton's trip to the Northwest was very brief, hundreds of energetic people packed the room to hear from the NDP federal party leader.
Now, it's true that Nathan is one of the hardest working members of Parliament in the House of Commons. When you consider the travel that he has to do, not only in the riding, which is enormous to begin with, 1,000 kilometers by 800 kilometers, and he visits all the communities and makes a point of making sure he knows what your concerns are so he can speak from the heart in the House of Commons. But he also gets results.
What a vote of confidence. Jack knows the riding. He knows the issues that we're facing, and it's just up here showing his support and bringing, I think, also some national attention to the place and the types of things that rural Canadians are looking at. This election has been missing that.
I think people have taken a long, hard look at the Conservatives here. There have been a lot of Conservatives elected in British Columbia. A lot of them have been there for 12 years. They become kind of comfortable in their jobs. And they seem to have taken the people for granted in many ways. Well, that's not what the NDP is going to do. And with people like Nathan, you know that's the truth. And everywhere we go, we're advancing the cause of New Democrats because they are advancing the cause of working families, seniors, young people, the people who don't have the well-connected friends in Ottawa and need our support.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.